Welcome to Confessions of an SEO. This is Carolyn Holzman. These are my experiences in SEO, both as an SEO and an SEO tester. So what you'll find here are no regurgitations of Google announcements. Instead, I watch their feet, and I do that through testing. So for you, the independent or the agency SEO, I get you. And for you business owners or stakeholders who don't really understand SEO, for many years I was a local business owner, and I understand the frustration of being in charge, but not really when it comes to something like SEO, because it sort of has a smoke and mirrors appearance unless you actually are an SEO. Now, special thanks to Confessions testing and research sponsor, the dental marketing guy, Justin Morgan. He owns and manages a marketing analyst and service firm for dentists. So you can find him by searching for the dental marketing guy, or you can click the link in the description. Now let's get started. Welcome to season 2, episode 40. I had to let that sink in for a minute because that just means there's 12 more weeks in 2022, which means we are definitely in Q4. So if you've listened to last week's show, was it last week or the week before? It's late. Anyway, you know what I think about all that. All right, so here we are. Now this week, I thought there was something that just kind of popped up in the forefront of my brain, and I found myself reminiscing about what SEO testing was like in 2015. And that was when SEO testing by the average SEO Joe or Carolyn was just getting started. Now, before, if you're not an SEO, you're like, well, SEO testing, you must need a lot of engineers. No, you don't. But I do recall the first time I heard the phrase SEO testing. And it was kind of like one of those sound effects, with the old record player sounds where the needle just slides across the groove on a vinyl record. At least in my head, that's what it sounds like. But it really caught my ear. And the type of SEO testing that I'm referring to is the kind that is peer-reviewed, meaning people who know what you're doing. You show them what you did. You tell them how you wrote, how you prepared your test and what the results were. And you write it up. And the actual data is shared. The specific URLs are not. Testers are not required to reveal their specific websites. But the data, yes, and to also be open to peer review, which in short means be able and willing to answer questions about when did you launch this, for example. It might have been during an update, so having other eyeballs or ears listening to what it is that you tested, be able to just try and just as a professional kind of pop holes into your test, but in an informed way, not just, the delight of taking a pin and popping a balloon, but really honing in on what else could possibly explain the result. And it is fun when you come up with a test and you've anticipated those questions and accommodated, possible way to eliminate that from contaminating your test. Now, I always thought like my favorite question when I hear anybody's test being reviewed, someone generally always says, "Oh, were they all on the same Gmail account?" Which is really fun. And there was one particular backlink test that I did a few years back that required 30 separate cloud pages. Now, if you don't know what those are, that's servers or computers that you can upload pages to, and then if you know the URL, you can find them. Now, in this particular case, the results for that test, I'm not going to share them here. They were shared in the IMG Testers group. So if you want to go see those results, you need to be a member of IMG. And So anyway, someone asked me, did you use different cloud accounts or just one? So my first thought was like, geez, to be able to do that, to have them all on separate ones would have required 30 different credit cards. The things you learn about platforms and test setups. But, nowadays there are a lot of things that are passed off as testing, SEO testing, that are presented as very definitive answers. But the thing is, they don't show the actual data. So we're supposed to take their word that they accounted for things that can mess up tests. Or, maybe they were tested in live environments, live search environments, where anything could happen. And probably in either situation, they were likely only run once. One of the things for the indexation coming up with the revised protocol is I had to make sure it was repeatable. So on that one, I think I did once off the test site, I think I did 5 more separate domains and set them up the same way and did the exact same thing and got a repeatable result. So that's the only reason why I presented that publicly, was because I had been able to isolate and make sure that, again, it was something that was repeatable. It didn't just happen that I was lucky that one day. So in SEO testing, early on, we thought the secret was the thing. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's say we were testing the presence of an H3. Now, an H3 is a header tag, and there's H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. This is all in the HTML protocol. And if our test showed a positive movement going up, then it was the H3s. Okay, everybody, let's put H3s on all of our pages. So again, aren't we cute? Now, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying don't put H3s, but I'm just saying that over the past 7 years, that things have gotten better. Our questions that form our hypothesis have gotten better. The test setups have had to get better because, for instance, when we first started doing this, you could publish on the same domain 5, 7, 10 pages, and within a couple of minutes, all of them would be indexed. And usually by 10 minutes, you had solid results. That is what testing looked like back in 2015. Well, Google doesn't stand still very long, and so they introduced a little bit of volatility in pages that are almost like each other, which is exactly how SEO tests are set up. You're trying to isolate one factor on one of your test pages, so you've got to have similar enough pages with the exception of that one factor, right? So they're going to be, that's the nature of SEO testing, is you're testing similar pages. Now, in the beginning, we didn't even think about that, right? That Google might introduce volatility. Now, I guess when you look back, I suppose it makes it more understandable, like when you hear historically about the physicist Marie Curie, who in the course of discovering and experimenting with radiation became ultimately deathly ill with aplastic anemia caused by all her exposure to radiation. So at least the SERPs weren't physically dangerous or deadly to us. But like I say, the setups are a lot more informed because our environment has changed. And not only questions are better, the test formats are better, but our interpretation of the results and the findings, oh my God, many a time at first, and I wouldn't see it until the peer review. But eventually, you get better at anticipating things that might be influencing your test. And it is strange how eerily easy it is to find yourself suddenly in a keyword density test when you thought you were testing something else. And in addition to all of that, sometimes results can be inconclusive. And all of these refinements in the questioning, the test setup, and interpretation, it's a thing of beauty. It's like watching my background is in music, but it's like watching a musical instrument evolve right in front of our eyes. And I just think it's like we're so like naively curious. And I remember in 2016, I was on the phone with Kyle Roof, and this was way before POP was developed and before Quora was available to us mere mortals. But we were talking about what was possible on a page, specifically how many places are there that we can put a keyword on any page. You know, it's a basic element of SEO. In fact, if anyone is listening who's new to SEO, it's a great exercise to make a list and to see, you know, how many can you think of. Now, I think at the time, and I've slept a few a few times since then, but I think we came up with like 14 to 20 places. And we thought that was a pretty exhaustive list in those early days, you know. Now, just as a point of comparison, in a Quora report from earlier this week, I counted almost 500 places and styles of how keywords could be placed on a page. Oh my God, that's just incredible to me. And it makes me laugh out loud how, we could name 20 and I thought, whoa, that's extensive. But it was the start of thinking like a programmer without having to be one, which is always obvious, but only in hindsight. And if you hear people today saying, oh, we always knew there were more than that, trust me, they weren't talking that way back then. And I get it. You know, it sounds very, very quaint today. In a testing mastermind this week, someone started a conversation where we were talking about Kyle Roos' rhinoplasty plano websites. And that was, he had entered into a ranking contest, and he used it not only to try and win the contest, but also to teach SEOs that where you put your keywords, how you put them, that could help. And what he did was he put them in these places, but everything else on the site was pretty much lorem ipsum. So it's kind of like filler content, but it didn't mean anything. And by the, actually it was like, I think a week after test, everything started, he like ranked number one, and he had actually had a GMB with that, which nowadays they call a GBP for the local listing. But then it was number one in maps. Now, it truly was and is now a masterclass in ranking zones on a page. And there are some SEOs who today try to minimize the achievement because, let's say it was on an exact match domain. And any listeners who don't know what that is, that's where the domain is made up of the exact same words as the search phrase. So if I were optimizing for, let's say, exact same keywords, my domain would look like this, exactsamekeywords.com. Now, those that are minimizing this, I feel like they are missing the impact of the whole thing. You know, it's not the domain, just the way it's not the H3s. And I would say that today, many of us, a lot of SEOs, have a much better understanding of exactly why and how exact match domains help, and how they can also easily hit a tripwire on that exact match anchor text. If you don't know what those are, that's links that go back to this site, and they're hyperlinked, so these words kind of look different than the other words in the paragraph. And when you click on them, suddenly you're not on the site you were on, but it takes you over to where that link goes to. So that's what they call a backlink. Anyway, so if it were exact match anchor text, how if you do too much of that, the whole thing can fall apart. But anyway, the point, what I wanted to say in this week was, I want to raise a glass to those who began what I feel is this movement towards self-education when it comes to SEO, that we can basically let Google itself teach us, not developer documents, but actually what actually gets ranked. And I'm grateful that I didn't overvalue what I thought I knew compared to what data might refute the very thing that I thought I knew. So I say thank you to all early testers. Thank you. Thank you to testers that are really trying to push the envelope and to make us all better SEOs. Well, long live the pursuit of the question. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. Remember to catch the daily crawl or no crawl reports. This is all about my research, and you can find them on YouTube. You can just search for crawl or no crawl YouTube and you'll find it. Or you can click the link. I'll put it in the description. Thank you for being a listener. Thank you to the sponsors of Confessions that help support this work for themselves and others. And if you'd like to support this podcast and SEO research too, there's a link in the description. It'll take you over to Anchor FM. Now, if you're looking to be an even more substantial sponsor, just like Justin Morgan, you can reach out to me at Confessions at American Way Media. And thank you, Justin, very much. Remember, Justin Morgan, the dental marketing guy. So please subscribe to Confessions if you haven't settled on one source for your podcast, and you can find it by just Googling Confessions of an SEO. You can't miss it. It's been my pleasure to be with you. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the SERPs.